Welcome, Autobots and Decepticons. My name is Matthew Flynn, the Gladiator of Chaon, and today I'm joined by Troy Pacelli, also known as Carton the Klingon Cleric, and Neda of Neda's Network. Welcome.
Good morning.
Yeah. Well, today we're going to be covering the first 10 episodes of Ben 10 Ultimate Alien.
Yep.
You're a little quiet there, Troy.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, so new series and not as bad as I was expecting. You kind of had implied that it made a big tonal shift, and so far I haven't been hating it. It's been pretty good.
I know
Yeah,
Ben's
then you've
attitude is.
basically viewed the show how I have. Because the way I described this show before is how other people view this for some reason. I feel like
Gotcha.
it's kind of gotten, well, not exactly gone, but it's been kind of disproportionate, or to some extent at least.
I think a big part of it was, he got a really nasty attitude in the second half of the previous series. So I was thinking, gosh, if people are saying that after this, it's got to be worse, right? Well, no, it wasn't. So this seems kind of refreshing by comparison.
Yeah. I think what happened is because there are like very minor moments of Ben being kind of having an exaggerated ego, and I think because of the way Ben was portrayed in season 3 of Alien Force, I think that kind of carried over, or at least people's perception of it kind of carried over from one show to the other.
Yeah. No, you might have an excellent point there. Yeah.
But Ben still has attitude in this season, like he's still all that in a bag of chips. It's like, dude, you have a team, and your team does just as much as you do, sometimes more.
I think you can't entirely
Yeah.
take all of that away from him, though. I think,
Yeah.
it is part of who he is, I suppose.
I think the thing that was most jarring for this season for me is the really abrupt endings for every episode we've seen so far, where it just kind of cuts off, and you're like, okay, is that a cut for a commercial break or what? And it's like, is something else going to happen?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it just feels like, I'd be sitting there, watching it, and I think it's over, or I mean, I think it's just going to commercial, and then I realize, oh, it's over. I guess I got to start the next episode.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Daniel Harron's here.
Hey, Daniel.
Welcome.
Hey there, Birdman. How you doing?
It was nice that he stopped by to say hi before going.
That's
In fact,
cool.
I don't know if he's still here or not.
Yeah, because I was able to type hello.
Yeah. So we've got the first episode, Fame, which is definitely a shake-up from the previous seasons. Obviously, more specifically relating to Alien Force, because it's the same style.
Yeah.
And that is Ben's secret identity has now been leaked to the internet. So now he's a famous superhero.
Yep.
In that episode where, he discovers that his secret's out, I think he went about getting with the reporters the wrong way. Instead of going out and becoming Humongosaur and scaring them, I would have turned it to one of the smaller ones and gone out the back way.
Yeah, I mean Gwen does kind of point that out to him that he probably shouldn't have done that.
And when he did walk out and was just ignoring them, I figured, okay, he's just gonna walk past them, basically no comment. I'm not saying anything to you. I'm gonna go about my business. You're not getting anything from me. But then he turns into Humongosaur, and that part is starting to get really annoying. Where every time he turns into something, he's got to announce it, Humongosaur, this, that, and it's like, really, dude, you need to announce it every single time you turn into a different alien. We all know what they are by now.
I'm not
I
sure if that's
understand.
Ben consciously doing that or if that just automatically happens when he transforms into them. It's never
It's
really
like
confirmed. He just sort of does it every time.
yeah, it's like I understand in the beginning when he would do that, so we knew the names of these different characters he was turning into. But now it's been how many seasons? It's like we know the different characters. Unless you're introducing a new alien, you shouldn't be humongousaur, and all this.
I suppose it keeps with the brand consistency, because it would be slightly weird if he and said the name of his alien every time or a few times, and then suddenly just stopped doing that. Yeah, so I do like the fact that when Ben's identity is revealed on the news, the guy who's announcing, he's very J. Jonah Jameson like,
Yes,
Uh huh.
I did
which
catch
is
that.
yeah, which is bringing even more Spider-Man comparisons to Ben 10.
There was even, and I don't remember if it was this first episode or not, but no, I guess it's later on. He's actually controlling a robot that is
Yeah,
fighting.
that is the next later
Yeah,
episode.
and I swear there was actually a storyline in Spider-Man that was exactly like that. That had J.
The
Jonathan
Spider
Jameson's.
Slayers, or do you mean the Scorpion?
I don't really remember, but it was a robot that had a picture of J. Jonah Jameson's face on its chest, and I don't even remember the storyline, but I remembered it visually. And when I saw that, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty clearly an homage there.
Yeah,
And then when
I
Ben
mean
walks into
the yeah,
sorry, when Ben walks into school and everyone's looking at me, he goes, "Great, somebody's gonna start a fight with me now." And it's like if someone did, he would just turn to one of his aliens and be able to deal with it. But it's like they're all kind of like looking like they're glaring at him, and then they start applauding, and it's like, wait, are they being sarcastic? Until you realize they're being genuine. They're like, you had helped us out so much, dude.
yeah. I even like the fact that it's Cass and JT that are the ones that are who started clapping for him first.
Right.
Because
Yeah, I
obviously he
was
helped them earlier in Alien Force.
heck, I was actually just glad to see, they kept the continuity of those characters, I mean, they're
Yeah,
minor characters, but they kept them consistent.
yeah. I'm pretty sure there's an episode later in this season that also features Cass and JT. I don't know how many more times they're going to appear, but I do recall there is an episode later.
And now we do have, at least some of the elements that I had been saying I wanted to see more in the show, where they can stay around home, have, consistent support characters and whatnot. It does seem to be a little bit of a
Yeah,
progression there. It also seems to acknowledge the idea that keeping a secret identity may not be practical forever.
yeah. And we also have the person who figured out Ben's identity and leaked it to the internet. This kid Jimmy,
Yep.
who obviously reveals Ben's identity because he's like a big fan, and he even said that he thought he would enjoy the attention. Which I would imagine if it was like early season 3 Ben, he probably would enjoy being famous or
Right.
world famous to the world, not just the random aliens that visit him and give him trophies.
Right. Exactly.
And this kid Jimmy, he's voiced by the same voice actor who voiced Robin in the Teen Titans cartoon.
Oh, interesting.
What's it? Scott Menville, I think's his name. In fact, he's doing the exact same voice as Robin, just higher pitched.
Huh.
Actually, he voices a few characters in this show, or this specific show. Although this isn't the only character who's voiced by a Teen Titans cast member, because what's her name? The voice actor for Gwen voiced Terra in the Teen Titans cartoon, and we also had what's her name? 10-year-old Ben was voiced by the same voice actor as Raven from Teen Titans.
Huh.
And Manny from the previous show, he's voiced by Cyborg, or the guy who voices Cyborg, Kari Payton, I think's his name. The only one that's missing is the person who voiced Starfire. She hasn't appeared in this show. Almost got all 5 of them, but not quite.
Yep.
And we also have the Rust Bucket 3, which ironically enough doesn't look like the actual Rust Bucket, but is a giant green jet.
Right,
that's
that's a
been
retired jet, so that's why Karen was calling it Rust Bucket, because it's an old thing that he fixed up.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool. They don't have to keep relying on ship to fly in places.
Yep. And they called it Rust Bucket 3, I would assume out of respect for Grandpa Max's vehicle.
Yep.
Because obviously the previous Rust Bucket we saw was the second one, even though it looked exactly the same as the original Rust Bucket. Actually, that's one of the things that confused me when I was younger, is I assumed that because the Rust Bucket in Rust Bucket 2 in Alien Force and the original Rust Bucket looked virtually identical to each other, I just assumed when I was younger that they were the same vehicle, so it confused me when the Rust Bucket 3 came, when they were using the Rust Bucket 3. I was like, wait, why are they calling it 3? There's only been one Rust Bucket. When I actually stopped and looked at it, I did notice that actually the Rust Bucket was actually referred to as a separate vehicle, despite looking the same.
Yeah, and I think, wasn't it destroyed in one of the what do you call it?
The live action TV
The
movies.
live action, and again, it was very unclear when they were canon and when they weren't.
And then, of course, because his identity has now been announced to the world, his family's being threatened by different aliens, and Grandpa Max is trying to keep that from him, and then that comes out, and it's just like, that's not something you could keep from him. It's like, if my family's being threatened, I need to know about it.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh wait, that's the 3rd episode.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And we also have the main villain and the main overall story of the season starting right at the beginning with the villain named Agricor, who is kidnapping 5 different aliens from the Andromeda universe.
Right, and because they're from a whole different galaxy, they wouldn't even be in his Omnitrix, which is why he gets the opportunity to add them each time.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool. He gets to scan new aliens and add them to his database.
a database that's so big he's never going to use them all anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jet Ray will be used less and less as we go forward. I hope you like Jet Ray, because once Ultimate Alien is finished, you're never going to see him again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's not even a reasonable, oh, we don't want to use that alien because we already have other aliens that can fly and do everything he can. It's actually a more petty reason why we're not going to see him after Ultimate Alien. It's actually very simple. The art director for Omniverse doesn't like Jet Ray, so he just didn't design that character, so that character doesn't show up in that show.
Huh. Yeah.
Okay.
Which I feel like, even if you don't like a particular alien, you still got to design it and put it in the actual show. You can't just be like, I don't like that alien, so we're not using him.
Yeah, that's not how production on shows like this is supposed to work, but unfortunately, that kind of stuff, I guess, does go on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and I believe there are like 3 other aliens that the designer for Omniverse also didn't like, so he didn't design. So those although the other 3, I don't think we've actually seen those aliens yet, so we don't have to worry about that right now.
Yeah.
Yes, there's at least 4 aliens that we're not going to see after Ultimate Alien. Although now I think about it, if we watch the reboot, then we probably will see Jet Ray again, because I'm pretty sure he's in that show. But that depends on if we actually do watch the reboot or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Next episode, Duped. This one probably touches on something that you mentioned back in season 4 of the original show, as it pertains to the alien Ditto, because he could copy himself.
Yeah. Yeah, it got almost a little bit noodle scrambling trying to figure out, are they being consistent with the way this works and the way the Omnitrix works in relationship to Echo Echo? And I don't know.
I mean, this
My
is a
brain just
different
melted.
device. Yeah, so for this one, Ben turns into Echo Echo, copies himself into 3, and then sets the Ultimatrix to human mode, and then turns himself into 3 Bens.
Right. With 3
And
different personalities.
which I suppose you could consider 3 aspects of his personality, maybe,
Sure.
or just 3 personalities that any random person would have. It's not very clear on that. It just sort of is just 3 separate personalities.
Yeah.
Well, it seemed to be his really, really good side, his really, really bad side, or not caring side, and then him. Like together.
Well, there was definitely
Yeah.
a very empathetic one, a very selfish one. And
I suppose
Go ahead.
Okay, I think for a minute there my mic just jumped in volume. Do I sound louder?
No, you sound fine.
Oh, okay. I guess it's just me. Yeah, yeah, the mean Ben, the one that's like a little more ego, could probably be subtle criticism of like season 3, maybe. The way Ben was acting, because that Ben kind of
Maybe.
acts similar to the way he did.
Could be.
Maybe that could be Ben's ego, and then the other one is because the other one's like very soft spoken and very what's the word? Not feeble, but different.
Yeah,
Can't think of the word I'm trying.
Considerate of people's feelings and all that. And that's where
Yeah.
I would have switched them. Instead of sending nice one to the museum, I would have had the nice one stay and watch Julie at the tennis match and send the arrogant one with Kevin.
Yeah, but it's very clear that it was less about the strategy of Ben so much as the interplay for drama purposes.
Well,
yeah, like the calm, soft-spoken, empathetic one with Kevin is definitely a good match in terms of creating drama and just all around being like entertaining, like having a more interesting dynamic between them. Because I suppose in a way the meaner, more egotistical one probably wouldn't contrast as well with Kevin, before it would rather match him a bit more.
Yeah. And Kevin probably wouldn't even notice anything was off.
Yeah. And of course we have Kevin trying to figure out what the Forever Knights are doing. Obviously Julie tennis match, and then Ben goes to and then Ben wants to go to the cinema to watch Sumo Slammer's live action movie.
Now,
although
I do have to say that the girls in this episode, I I understand what they were trying to do with the storyline here, but it was
Yeah,
incredibly frustrating because it seems so ridiculous that Julie and Gwen would be, you know, well, you should have been here. This was important. Um, Guys, you do understand what we do, right? And how important that is, you know?
yeah,
I mean, sorry, there's yeah, I
Yes,
don't
but
know.
then when Ben was acting so jerkish and someone's like, "That's your boyfriend to
Sure.
Julie," I expected her to go, "He was."
Well,
Uh,
sure, at that point, yeah, he's kind of
yeah,
being jerk. You're there and you're acting like a jerk. But him not being there because he's dealing with the Forever Knights, I mean, especially for Gwen to say, yeah, yeah, we know. Forever Knights investigate, save the world. We all know about it. But this was a tennis game. I'm sorry. I know it was important to her, but she's also old enough and mature enough to understand that, save the world might come first.
yeah. I also feel like Ben deciding to go, like the normal, like the main him go to the cinema. I feel like he didn't need to do that because
Yeah,
movies don't just play for one day and then that's it.
right.
exactly.
I'm pretty sure he would have other chances to see the movie.
Which I didn't think about until the end when he is offered, I'll go to the movie with you. Well, I kind of already saw it. There's another one. If you're going to go so far as to use Echo Echo to try to be in three places at once, don't you think you could just go, yeah, okay, I'll go see it again. Why not?
Only leave out the word again.
Yeah, right. True. Just don't say again.
Yeah,
I mean,
just
yeah, that
and
would be
when
like,
he did say that he already saw it, he could have just said like I saw it yesterday or a few days ago. He could have said something other than oh while you were playing tennis.
Yeah, exactly.
but I got the impression that was opening day of the movie, so she would have known
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I got that impression
Yeah.
too. She knew he hadn't seen it at that point, or shouldn't have been able to.
Although this does the fact that Ben uses Echo Echo to copy himself, and then the three different Bens then can also turn into a different alien.
Yeah,
Does kind of bring up a
that's
does
what
kind of
kind of
bring up
threw
a
me. I
tactic.
thought for sure if one of those Echo Echoes changes, well, what happens to the other two that aren't there? Well, then I started thinking about the fact that we had previously seen that, for example, if one of them dies, it's fine as long as there's still others out running around. They, but wait, when he first got Echo Echo, didn't they all three have to be in the same place, or he couldn't change back?
Yeah,
No,
because when he was on
that
his
was
spaceship.
Ditto. That wasn't Echo Echo.
Oh, okay, dumb
Oh,
question. What's the difference?
Echo Echo is well, this one if I can find. Obviously the I believe
Oh,
I
hi,
don't know what Ditto
Melissa.
Ditto is made of, but Echo Echo is a synthetic being because he's made of silicon and obviously has the sonic scream.
right.
But yeah, but Ditto he only has his ability to copy himself, possibly for an infinite amount of times. They never clarified how much he can copy himself. We just saw quite a large number of Dittos in that one episode,
That was a
Gotcha.
lot.
and that when he was separate, the timing out was linked to the fact that all of them had to be all together so they could merge back into one and then change back. I think that's because Echo Echo is synthetic. I think that's possibly why parts of him can be destroyed with no real issue.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. But yeah, that kind of threw me. It wasn't making a lot of sense. And then, so basically he was able to be, and at one point he ends up being three different aliens at once. And I'm like, well, this is a power that you would think he would use more often.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I know. I know the episode kind of wanted to portray it as him splitting himself being a detriment, because obviously he was failing and hitting himself, kind of. Well,
Right.
not
And
directly
you
himself, but like his other copies. And it wasn't until he like changed back into Echo and then went back into being one alien, he did that, then did better. I
I
think the
felt
episode was
like
trying to portray it as him being like just one alien is more useful than, or not useful, is what he's better with just the one alien rather than being multiple. But I feel like he could probably like at least practice turning into multiple Bens and having multiple aliens and like practicing with that.
yeah, it does seem to be that they were trying to convey, and you get it, I think, more clearly when he's Ben, multiple Bens, is that
Yeah,
there's like a watering down of, his essence, right? So by splitting his personality, it's not the complete person, it's just aspects of him. What they really needed to do was convey that maybe a little bit better in regards to the aliens as well. But I guess if that's
yeah,
what they were going for, then yeah, I get that.
But yeah, that does make sense. If he split himself into three, then that means that his strength is split by three.
Yeah. Or whatever
yeah.
aspect, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ultimatrix itself does have like a limited, I suppose you'd call it battery life, even though there aren't any batteries in it,
Right.
or energy, or whatever you would specifically refer to it as.
That makes sense, sure.
Yeah. Maybe that splits into three as well. Or maybe it doesn't. I have no idea. They don't actually clarify that. Also, there's one thing I noticed when the three different Bens are talking to each other. They each have like their own phone. So I'm thinking, so did the Ultimatrix copy Ben's phone as well? Is that why he has three of them?
It does seem reasonable. It duplicates, for example, his clothing. So should also copy
Yeah,
like what's in his pocket.
Yeah, that makes sense.
that could potentially be I don't know, not cheated, but maybe tagged or like use that to just get infinite items or something. Just put something valuable in his pocket and then split himself and then take that out of his pocket and then just keep doing that until he has a large number of like something like very rare or something. If that even
Yeah,
allows it to do that.
I suspect that wouldn't work though. I suspect it's like a fool's gold kind of thing where after the effect wears off, the copies go away.
Yeah.
I thought for sure you were going to say I think that would cause a problem if you have three cell phones that have the same SIM card. They can't all connect at the same time. Digging
Yeah.
way too far into the way cell phones work.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's also another thing I noticed that when Gwen got angry at Ben, I think it's not at the end of the episode, early in the episode, before he decided to copy himself. But Gwen actually referred to him by his full name, and his middle name is Kirby. I think his full name was mentioned in the original series, but for whatever reason, it stood out to me here. And actually, the show creators now actually did directly say that they gave Ben the middle name Kirby as like a reference to Jack Kirby.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's definitely a case where it's not a coincidence. His middle name is the same as a famous comic creator. Okay. Now we're on the episode with all of Ben's or various enemies of Ben's coming back to his family. So this is Hit 'em Where They Live, which is also written by Len Wein, just like some of the episodes in season 3 of Alien Force.
And I do have to say that the basic concept of this story makes perfect sense. It is, I feel, necessary when you take a superhero character who has a secret identity for the purpose of protecting his family and, so on and so forth. If that's the way it's going to be, then when that secret identity is blown, this has to be the follow up.
Yeah, at some point. In fact, I think the episode implies that because Grandpa Max has been defending Ben's family from various villains, I like that the episode starts with him already doing that, because you see 7-7 trying to target Ben's mother.
Right.
And Grandpa Max even says a little bit later in the episode that he's been secretly taking care of other villains who have tried to attack his family as well. And he didn't even need like Ben's family or Ben himself. He didn't need them to ask him to do that. He just knew that that's something that he would have to do.
Yeah.
Yes, but because like their family and everything. I also noticed that at the very beginning, 7-7 when he targets Ben's mother, he does a very similar targeting thing to the Predator. The red triangle.
Oh yeah.
That might have been intentional. Although the Predator's not a bounty hunter, so that probably doesn't line up perfectly. I also like the fact that when we actually see Ben, Gwen, and Kevin, and they're already in the middle of something else, and they're stopping Rojo from robbing a train. I do like the fact that as soon as you see Ben, it's Raph. I do like seeing more of Raph.
Yeah, I like that character.
Yeah, especially since after he takes out the two other gang members hovering bikes, and Rojo tries to get away, and Raph throws a piece of the broken jet or the broken hover bike at Rojo, and it blows up. I love the fact that Gwen's like, "Nice shot." He's like, "Yeah, I was going for her head."
Yeah, which of course made me think of Blake 7.
That might have been a reference, or it might be a complete coincidence.
Well, I know that Blake 7 also wasn't the first time that was used, but it was the first time I became aware of it.
Yeah. And it's also the sort of thing you'd kind of expect from Raph. Actually, you'd expect that from Kevin as well.
One thing that I liked in this is that, you know that Gwen can turn into her alien bit because she's done that once before. And this time it's like, you threatened my family.
Yeah.
If you come near them again, you will die.
I did like the Zombozo, who's pretty, he's a scary clown, right? To see the scary clown get scared.
But it was the transition too. It's like she starts off with the pink eyes,
yeah,
and then she starts getting glowy, and then more glowy, and then you see her alien form as she's getting angrier and angrier, and I'm like, oh, this boy's dead.
Yeah.
And she grows giant as well.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Well, I was wondering about that. My first inclination was, well, wait a minute, are Anodites like giants? And then I realized, well, no, they're more like energy creatures. So she could literally be any size she wants to be.
Yeah. And we also have another appearance by Volcanus and Charmcaster.
Yeah, it was pretty good to see Charmcaster again. I did like that.
Yeah. One thing that I stood out to me is that Zombozo has a very Joker-esque not appearance, but like he is very similar to the Joker.
Right.
Which is actually ironic when you think about it, because the guy voicing Joker has actually voicing Zombozo has actually voiced Joker before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in the early 2000s Batman cartoon, the one that's just called The Batman. In that one, John DiMaggio, who voices Zombozo here, he voiced Joker in that show. So in a sense, it's not like an official Joker because it's not Mark Hamill doing it, but it's a Joker.
Yeah.
At least someone who has actually voiced Joker before. Oh wait, no, it's not. No, it's not the Batman. That was Michael Clark Duncan. No, the one I'm thinking of is the Under the Red Hood movie. That's where John DiMaggio voiced Joker. Yeah, my Batman cartoons mixed up.
Well, you know more about them than I do.
Yeah. I mean, I have a bunch of the Batman animated movies on like a DVD collection on my shelf.
And one other thing I did want to mention about this episode, it brings the parents back, and unfortunately, it does kind of imply the hippie, personality that was introduced in the first live action film. I'm like, oh, no, please, no. But,
well, there is only one of the actors from that movie voicing the parents, and that's the mother, or Ben's mum. She's the one who's voiced by the same actor from the movie, just like in Alien Force.
Right.
But when we see Ben's father, he only says like one or two things, and it's not voiced by the same actor. It's actually voiced by Yuri Lowenthal, the voice of Ben.
Oh, that's interesting.
What's interesting about the dad is that he got a flat tire or something, and the crew's fighting all these aliens, and then they're like, I can imagine how Ben's dad feels surrounded by nothing. He's totally unaware anything even happened.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. I did also like that Charmcaster is using Hex's staff from the original show.
You know what? I didn't notice this during the episode, but Rojo's gang, all of the names of their characters are just the names of colors in Spanish. Rojo, azul, and amarillo. It's red, blue, and yellow.
Oh, I did not know that.
It sounds so much prettier that way.
Yeah.
I mean, Rojo was a reddish kind of color in the original series.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I think when we saw her later in season 4 of the original show, she was in a reddish colored battle alien suit or something. I'm pretty sure we will see Rojo again in I think Omniverse. I do recall her appearing there.
Cool.
Oh, and of course Zombozo isn't actually dead. We will see him again later as well. So this is the second time that he's been scared and possibly killed.
I was going to say, it distinctly appeared that it was Gwen's intent that he survive and go away and tell everybody, and that was not real clear from the story, but it had to be there. It had to make, because that was the whole point. This needs to stop. Let everyone know we will not pull punches if you go after the family.
It's kind of like Doctor Who did that, where he's like, look me up.
Look me up. And now run.
Every other alien not to come here. This planet is protected. And it's kind of like, oh crap, and they scurry away.
Yeah.
I would love to see that database. What exactly does it say?
Yeah. And not forgetting that Ben uses Ultimate Big Chill.
Yep.
This isn't the only Ultimate Alien figure that I have. I also have this one as well. But obviously we've not met this character yet.
Oh, Also, here it says Kevin Michael Richard voiced Joker in Batman.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was it. Yeah, Kevin Michael Richardson. Okay, I always get the actors confused sometimes because sometimes specific actors have like very similar voices. Funny enough, Kevin Michael Richardson and was it Michael Clark Duncan? They both have a very similar sounding voice. Funny enough, this figure is virtually identical to the base Big Chill figure from Alien Force. Just has some differences, like the end of the wings, end of this, and the head here.
Sure.
Apart from that, it's literally just the same figure, colored different. Which I suppose is exactly what the animation model is when you think about it. Although this does bring up a point I want to make about the Ultimatrix. It allows Ben to evolve his aliens to their ultimate form. So it's weird that he only uses about like 6 of them. He only changes 6 of his aliens into their ultimate form, when technically he should be able to do that with any of his aliens. We will see him turn other aliens into their ultimate form, but there's only like a set number of them through the show that we'll see, even though he's not actually limited to the small number that he does transform into. Which is very annoying, because there are definitely a couple of aliens that Ben has that I would have loved to have seen an ultimate form for.
Yeah, it's almost like, I'm this alien. What can make better? Ultra alien!
I am kind of curious which ultimate form is your favorite one.
I don't know, I think the monkey's cute. Spider monkey.
Yeah, I didn't care for what they did. I felt it was unimaginative to turn Spider Monkey into essentially a gorilla with spider legs. It was just...
Yeah, I mean, I like the monkey before he's ultimate, but because he's cute. But then, yeah, Troy's right. He's kind of like this huge gorilla. It's like, he's not cute anymore.
I think Ultimate Humongosaur is the one that I like.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the other ones, what they look like.
Cannonbolt looks mostly the same, but just looks more metallic, and he has like little they're not quite spikes, but these little things coming out of his shell, or sticking out of his shell.
Yeah, it's like
and obviously Big Chill is the same, but a little more jagged edges and a different color.
What's the kind of purple fly one? I keep forgetting the name of that one. Can phase in and out. Also has cold breath. What's that one?
Oh, you mean Big Chill?
Big Chill.
There's Big Chill.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, I actually kind of like that one because even the powers are kind of cool. They can phase in and out, and and has that the cold breath.
Yeah, I do like the ultimate form. She shoots fire that freezes.
Yeah, that's what's
which
so cool.
Does make some sense, because obviously if you touch something that's very cold, it feels like it burns.
They even say that in one of the lines of something like, "I breathe fire so," what was it?
Fire so cold that it burns.
Yeah, so cold that it burns. That's how it went. It's like, that's the one I like. So that's my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, my favorite is Ultimate Echo, but I'm pretty sure we've not seen him yet. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Ultimate Echo, he hasn't actually turned into that alien yet, but he will later on in this season. Okay, yeah. Next episode, video game. Or video games. And this is the one with the, because the character's name is Will Harang, the J. Jonah Jameson type guy.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there I'm pretty sure you could be like a DC comparison for
Yeah,
Will Harang,
I'm
but I
also
can't quite put my
getting
finger
like
on
a.
who it would be.
I mean, if he turns out to have, I mean, because we've already seen him do the robot thing. If he turns out to be like an alien in disguise or something, I'm gonna have to say it's more like Glorious Godfrey from DC Comics.
Yeah, that's a I'm thinking of a Glorious Godfrey.
Yeah.
Okay, obviously because there have been some Ben 10 video games over or through the franchise's history, Google was obviously deciding to show me pictures of some of the games, specifically the Ultimate Alien game, which, funnily enough, is the only other game that let you play as more than 5 aliens. Because it had a weird way of doing it. Instead of just having you giving you the option to choose any of like from 10 or so of the aliens, you have to select 4 aliens that you can actively use. But it kind of made it more difficult by the fact that at least 3 of those aliens had to be a specific alien for the level, which left you with one option to choose whatever alien you want, which I feel like is kind of strange design, especially since the previous game to this allowed you to just pick any from the 10 aliens and just cycle through all 10 of them and not worry about having one specific alien tied to a level. And of course, the game, even though the game let you turn into use Ben's ultimate forms, it didn't actually let you use them throughout the level, but rather at the end of the level for the boss fight, which I suppose is more for balancing than anything else.
Sure.
Because I feel like you just being able to use an ultimate form just throughout the whole level would probably be kind of cheap. Yeah, so with this episode, obviously Ben uses not Ben, Will Harang hires a video game studio. I don't know if they actually are a video game studio. I think they just like say they are.
Mm-hmm.
But he hires someone to construct a robot to help him defeat Ben, which to me felt reminiscent of like a mix of the Spider Slayers and the origin of the Scorpion from Spider-Man comics, because obviously Scorpion was created as a villain for Spider-Man for the exact same reason, like J. Jonah Jameson hiring him to take out Spider-Man. You've got a very similar thing here. Although obviously because Google isn't cooperating with me, it's not showing images of the actual episode. I think if I actually type in like the episode number, maybe then it will actually show it. No, that did not really help much. This image right here is pretty much the only one from the episode we're talking about.
Yeah.
When he turns into Nanomac and goes inside the robot and starts messing with the wiring and the circuits and everything. It did also kind of remind me of the like the Amazo android or the Super Adaptoid from Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite in the sense that it copies his powers, but rather can counter all his powers. Obviously, because they scanned in the various alien abilities through the by using the video game development as like a front for that. I also like the fact that the very start of the episode we see Ben fighting the serpent guy again, and he turns into Four Arms, who has a very very He-Man looking design,
actually.
Yeah. I also find it funny that when Serpent tries attacking Ben, he just uses his like lower arms to grab both his hands, and then he can't move, and then he just uses his other hands to grab the two cars either side of him behind him and just smash him.
I have to admit, I did laugh out loud at that because two things. First, the first time we saw him, it was a similar thing where he's causing all kinds of havoc, and then Ben comes in and kind of easily defeats him,
Yeah.
And he's doing the same thing here, and it's like this time it seems like they're evenly matched, but he purposely was going easy on him. He literally was fighting with two hands tied behind his back, and he's like, okay, I guess that's not going to work, and then just slam out of nowhere. He's like, I want to go home now. I'm still laughing about it.
Oh, here's another image that actually is from this episode, because Gwen's taking a driving test, and like right in the middle of like the driving test, the instructor panics.
Did not go where I thought it was going to go. When she's parallel parking and the car in front of her and behind her blew up, I thought that the instructor was going to, deduct points or something, like she crashed into him or something and be oblivious. Nope. Yeah. He's like, okay, so I think we should try to get out of here now. You did very good avoiding the laser.
Yeah. And also, this also brings into focus another thing. Gwen is using Ben's car, which obviously we saw in the live-action Alien Swarm movie, but because that movie was before season 3. Ben, it's kind of weird with like the production order because the movie came out partway through that season, but it takes place before it, so they couldn't have included the car and everything.
And this is okay. So I can accept. That's how he gets his car. It was a gift from Kevin or whatever.
Yeah.
But Kevin also lost his car in that. So does he replace it? Is it a new car for him?
Yeah, I think he did. He must have either bought a new one that looks very similar, or maybe he must have salvaged as much part of the parts of the other car that he could and rebuild or something.
Now, I'm not sure if they intended the cars to be specific makes of cars or if they're custom cars. I got a distinct Mustang vibe from this, and I got to be honest with you. My first thought was, if I was Gwen, I would not want to be going to take a driving test in a Mustang. I mean, that would be, just showing up in a sports car is probably going to be points off to begin with.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I can't drive a stick shift, so.
Well, there's that too, yeah.
I tried. Someone tried to teach me how to drive a stick shift, and they're like, you'll hear the change. It's like, I couldn't hear whatever change it was to change gears. It's like, you can hear something, I can't hear anything. So yeah, me and stick shifts don't work.
I can definitely see the Mustang like looking like for Kevin's car. Ben's car looks like an Audi R8.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it actually is designed to look like that, but it kind of looks like that to me.
I know, kind of looked like a Chevy Nova to me.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, we also have while Wilherang's like controlling the robot, and I'm just thinking clearly him doing this is like some kind of like ego boost or purely for the ratings and that sort of thing. Because I can't think of any other reason why someone would, especially a news anchor, would spend their own money to fund the construction of a robot in order to fight someone who's multiple times been shown to be a hero.
They did
and only sometimes been shown to be destructive.
It did seem kind of inconsistent, how much money he had spent, how much money he has. I'm not entirely clear if he's really wealthy or if he's overextending himself.
Yeah. I did find it funny when Ben, when he's turned into way big and he's like holding the robot and he crushes it to pieces and just drops it and just in front of the news station, and the guy's just looking down and is that your car?
Yeah. Not anymore.
Yeah. And of course, Will Harang then like said in like I think one of the next broadcasters he does, he says something about Ben. He like best says whatever he can to make Ben look bad, which I suppose could be like a subtle jab at like the mainstream news as a whole, maybe, because he's obviously manipulating the way things are happening to like benefit himself and make Ben look bad.
Yeah.
Although I suppose Jonah Jameson kind of did that in the original run of Spider-Man as well. Yeah, maybe Jonah Jameson was also designed for that purpose as well.
True.
Although there are some moments in a later episode that kind of exemplified the whole subtle criticism of mainstream media. Because a later episode will kind of do probably be a little more overt with it. I don't know if you saw it, because it's the episode Hero Time where we do kind of get a like a mainstream media kind of being shown in like somewhat of a bad light, or maybe not. I don't know if you saw any of that in either this episode or that episode.
That wasn't an aspect I was focused on.
Okay, next episode, Escape from Agrigor.
Yeah. Yeah, so here we start to get the what really the plan is. We've had Agrigor introduced, but we have no idea what his shtick is, and we kind of find out here.
Yeah. So the first episode, when we saw one of the aliens who was just trying to get home, we saw him, Ben, Gwen, and Kevin fight him, then restrain him and convince him that they're not trying to hurt him and they just want to help. They just want to help if they can. And they tell him that they'll call the plumbers and that they'll come and take the alien back home to his home planet. And then when we see at the very end of the episode, we saw Agrigor come up to the alien and take him back. So this episode kind of basically shows us how these 5 Andromeda aliens ended up on Earth. I also like the fact that we have Dr. Animo, or with them fighting Dr. Animo at the beginning of the episode. And I am fairly certain Dr. Animo, like half the things he says is probably just because he likes hearing himself talk and likes like monologuing with someone else around. Because over like the multiple seasons we've watched where Dr. Animo has been featured, I definitely get a strong like vibe that he really cares about hearing his own voice and monologuing to people.
Yeah, and I did like the interplay of Kevin saying something to the effect of we why do you have to say your name? We know who you are,
Yeah.
Which honestly begs the whole and I'm wondering if it's a subtle jab at the running joke of Ben always having to announce what alien he becomes. It's like, yeah, we can see who you are. You don't need to announce it.
Yeah.
People start responding like, "Humongouser." Yeah, we know.
Yeah, we know who you are.
Like in Doctor Who,
Yeah.
when Harriet Jones would announce herself, Harriet Jones, Prime Minister. Yes, we know.
Yeah. I know who you are.
I also like the dynamic between the Andromeda aliens when they're on Agregor's ship. Obviously, the episode starts with the turtle alien, Galapagos. Like we start with him on his home planet, and he's like attacked by Agregor, and then he's taken and thrown into a cell with the others.
I'm following this guy.
Yeah, I also like you have like a difference in like you can tell the difference in their personalities because the red well, obviously we would know him as Water Hazard because that's what Ben calls him, but what Ben calls the alien, but the actual alien where he got the DNA from is named by Valvin. I like the fact that he's kind of level-headed and more reasonable. And we have Pandor, I believe is his name. This guy who's a little more hot-headed and a little more prone to just try something, and I suppose a little bit arrogant as well. But I think obviously Galapagos is a peaceful alien who doesn't know how to fight, or at least he says he doesn't know how to fight.
Sure, he doesn't.
Yeah, because at the early in the episode when he's like rampaging through, at the beginning of the episode when he's rampaging through Bellwood, and he says that he only did that to get to get Ben's attention, and then, they even point out the fact that even though he says he doesn't know how to fight, they do point out that he clearly knows something.
I thought it was funny is like, if this is another baby alien, I'm not changing diapers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also I think it was in this episode. I guess it doesn't really matter because we've seen Agregor, earlier. But in this episode, I'm looking at him, basically his face, the horns and whatnot, and I got a strong Zabrak, vibe from him, like the Jedi Agen Kolar from the prequels,
Or Darth Maul.
I was thinking,
or like Darth
Maul,
Maul without the makeup. Yeah, that race of beings. I was like, I
wonder... or Beodor from the Knights of the Republic 2 game.
Sure. Yeah, same race.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the same race but from 2 different planets. I think it's Iridonia and Dathomir.
Right.
And they would refer to as Iridonian Zabrak or Dathomirian Zabrak.
Right.
Yeah.
So...
yeah, I kind of got the whole Zabrak vibe from him. I don't know if that's exactly what they were intending, but they do point out that Agregor is an Osmosian just like Kevin.
Yes.
Although Kevin's more than likely half Osmosian because his mother's human, because it was his father who was the Osmosian.
And I'm not sure where they're going with this, but I did feel like this did seem like some good character development for Kevin, because it seems like he's taking his heritage to heart and he kind of cares about this because he feels like it's a reflection on himself. So
yeah,
I
got that vibe from, well, these first 10 episodes of the season. I definitely got that vibe. Probably a little more so later. It becomes a little more apparent late in the final, or the 10th episode. It was a little more apparent there. Yeah, I believe Agregor is most likely a full-blooded Osmosian rather than half.
Right. Now,
which I think also might be why he has horns.
That makes sense. Now, I did wonder, and I may have missed something. Let me know if I did and if it was brought up.
Yeah.
It's a minor point, but the Yeti. Do they
Oh,
give any explanation? Is the Yeti, a, you know, cryptid, or is it an actual alien, or what's the deal with the Yeti?
no, I don't think they did like, explain that. I would assume that's a cryptid rather than an alien.
Okay.
Yeah, because another show that was on the I think before Ben 10, it was called The Secret Saturdays. That was a show that focused on cryptids, and we will later find out that show is in continuity with this show.
Because I guess I always get confused whenever they bring Dr. Animo in, because I expect him
Yeah,
to be tied in with aliens somehow or something, and
yeah.
he's just not. He's just a person who, has developed
Mutates
technology and
animals.
abilities and yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. He did dabble with alien DNA during season 4, but I think that was the only time he did so.
Yeah.
And then obviously the last time we saw Dr. Mo was when he was in the Null Void. And I actually noticed they still haven't explained how he got into the Null Void, and also how he got back out again.
They never explain how anyone gets out of the null void.
It's not a very
Yeah.
secure jail.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah. Yep. We will find out later on why exactly Agregor has kidnapped these specific 5 aliens.
He wants their power. I mean, that's what Why else would he kidnap them?
Yep. There is a reason why he wants the powers of these 5 aliens.
Yep.
Next episode, Too Hot to Handle. And this is an episode focusing on. I like the fact that obviously this episode is focusing on Pandor here, or since this is an alien, since this is Ben's transformation, this would be NRG. Yeah, so I like the fact that like these episodes where they're focusing on one of the aliens that have broken out and them like discovering the alien and then trying to help it. I like that they don't resort to just having the exact same episode structure for each episode, because I could have got repetitive if they just had 5 episodes that were basically the same thing but with different aliens. There is some variation to each of the 5 episodes.
Yeah, because like you said, otherwise it would be kind of boring.
Yeah, and this episode starts with Pandor hiring bank or safe crackers to try and break the armor off of him, or containment suit, or whatever it specifically is. I'm going to go with a containment suit considering he's radioactive inside.
Mm-hmm. And at one point, Kevin kind of breaches the suit, which causes problems. So.
Yep.
Yeah, but you got Gwen going, oh, we're going to let him starve. We have to get him out. It's like, Gwen, think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because
I do. It bothers me because I mentioned this too with the episode of about the tennis match and whatnot. There does seem to be they take these one-off opportunities for story reasons to make the characters dumb, and I don't like that.
Yeah. It's not unheard of for this series for them to exaggerate things for like an episode, because that happened multiple times in the original series. like in the Fountain of Youth episode from the original show, that episode had Grandpa Max acting like old, or well, not acting old, but like had him start portraying him as if he's like really old, even
Yeah.
though in previous episodes he wasn't portrayed as being like so like really old and not unable to hear and
Yeah.
just tiring easy and that sort of thing.
In fact, by and large, you really get the impression, however old he is very fit for his age. Even though he's a bit heavy, he is incredibly muscular and incredibly fit. Because let's face it, a life of a plumber, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and it also happened with like with the rust bucket with I think it was also a season 4 episode of the original show where the rust bucket had all these switches and buttons you had to press all at once just to flush the toilet, even though in previous seasons the rust bucket never shown to have that issue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of that was an issue specifically for that episode rather than being a thing that was in the show overall.
And I don't know what episode it was, if it's one that's coming up or one that's already passed, but Ben even makes a joke. He's in his spacesuit and he's looking
Nope.
behind him.
Later episode.
Later? Okay. But he makes a joke about plumber's crack.
Later episode. In fact, it's the bonus episode we watched.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was that was episode 11, which we're not going to be talking about today. Yeah, so this episode, when we see Kevin at the beginning of the episode, and he's like arrived at the along with the other safe crackers that Pandora hired,
Mm-hmm.
and you see like they're all like using their own different tactics to try and bust open his like containment suit, and they're all like failing because the material that the suit's made of is just too hard. And Kevin walks in with a piece of tadenite in a toolbox, and he absorbs that, and that cuts through very easily. And right as he cuts into it, some of the radiation inside starts to leak out, and his plumber's badge starts making noise, like notifying him that there's radiation in the area. And he stops because he's like, "Hang on, I'm not opening that. There's radiation in there." And he even says to him, "It's like what you got in there?" I think he even mentions that something about I think it was the fact that he was told, like the Pandora said to him to not worry about what's inside and just to open it, and Kevin walks away and says, "Yeah, I don't do business like that. Is that I open it, I need to know what's in there first." Yeah, we see throughout this episode is Kevin being somewhat the more reasonable one, while Gwen's being a little more open-minded and trying to consider the trying to like be helpful to Pandora, and although obviously kind of somewhat seems not out of character, but kind of a little weird because she's like so focused on trying to help him, she's not really paying attention to the fact that there could be a genuine risk to letting him out of his suit because of just how high and how much radiation he puts out. I also noticed that Kevin pointed out that tadenite is the hardest mineral in the universe, or hardest material, I think he specifically said. Which does make sense why it cut through Pandora's suit so easily.
True.
I want to say it's made of lead because obviously it's blocking the radiation, but then it probably wouldn't be so difficult to cut into if it was made of lead. So I'm assuming it's some sort of off-world equivalent to lead, maybe. And we also have the Pandor here. When he's actually out of his suit, he actually absorbs energy, and obviously his body puts out radiation, but he also absorbs energy that makes contact with him. And and of course, because he's made of energy, he can't be touched. So Ben or Gwen or whoever like tries to hit him, they just go right through him.
Yeah.
I am kind of curious if it's not made clear if like the containment suit he's in, if that's something that he was put inside of either when Agogor captured him or at some point in his life, or if like the suit itself is like a part, is something that's necessary for him to, or some necessary like clothing or something, or equivalent to clothing for him. Because obviously when Ben scans, when he scans Pandor, he actually when he transforms into him, he looks exactly like he does when he's in the suit. Rather, even though he scanned Pandor when he was like his energy form, when he was loose from the suit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm thinking that the suit must be in some way like a biological part of him or something. Otherwise, the suit itself wouldn't form it when Ben didn't even scan the suit itself. Do you have anything else in this episode?
Nope.
Yeah, yeah, and this one also ends with Agogor, with it like revealing that Agogor has actually like caught up to the alien and has recaptured him. There's one thing I noticed that Kevin can actually, when he covers himself in a specific, when he absorbs like a specific material like stone or iron, he actually uses that to he can actually like use that to fill in gaps or repair something that's made of metal. Because we see that when Humongousaur's holding up a stone or holding up like a giant boulder, and like he can't move because it'll drop. Kevin like absorbs the stone and then fills in a gap so that it doesn't fall.
Right.
So clearly he can, once he's absorbed a certain mineral or like a stone or metal or whatever it is he's absorbing, it's clear that he can produce like more of that specific material in order to then repair something or fill in like a gap. He could probably be very useful with that.
Well,
Like he
we've
could.
going farther back. We remember he was being forced by whoever it was to turn
Oh
into
yeah,
that
Volcanus.
right into that valuable mineral that
Yeah,
they were
the piece of
harvesting from.
tatanite.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it started producing a whole bunch more of like crystals of tatanite on his back. Although in this episode, when he absorbs tatanite, he doesn't like go crazy large and start producing a whole bunch of it.
Well,
This
because
time he
he's
just
in
sort of
control
absorbs.
of the transformation, whereas previously he was forced to keep doing it.
Yeah. I'm unsure if the him like being able to use like absorb stone and use that to fill in like a gap of stone, or fill like a hole in some stone, or repair something that's made of metal. I'm curious if that ability was always something he was able to do, or if that was like an addition after he mutated in season 3. Because we saw throughout this season of Ultimate Alien that Kevin has been able to use a combination of his powers from earlier in in Alien Force, and then also use the additional abilities he was using in season 3 of Alien Force when he was in that mutant form, and he could like create a spiked ball out of his hand or turn it into a blade or a pair of scissors or something, or just make it grow very large like the Sandman. They have actually shown that in like after that mutation was after he was released from that form, the abilities he had in that form stuck around. Okay, yeah. Next episode, Andreas's fault.
Yep.
Which I like the play on words for this title.
I did too, yeah. They do that a lot.
I'm curious if they named this the the yellow alien named Andreas. I'm curious if they named him specifically so they could do this with the title.
Oh, could be.
Or maybe if they or if they decided on Andreas and then they looked and went, hey, we can do this kind of title with that name. So this episode, we get another episode with Arjet, who's the more we see of him, the more we learn he's actually not a very good friend. In any way, because he very clearly only thinks of himself and his own survival, especially when it gets to a situation where he's in danger. I did find it kind of funny that when Ben's in the Mr. Smoothie joint and he's signing limited edition like Ben 10 cups with like 10 different aliens on them, and he's like signing them, and you have this one fan who's like screaming at him while he's talking to the newscast. So, and you've just got the fan just going Ben, 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 and just shouting it in different ways and moving to different spots so we can see him.
Which really does seem to be like the kind of behavior you see at conventions and whatnot when someone's trying to get autographs.
Yeah.
It's also reminiscent of Family Guy when Stewie kept doing that.
Mommy,
Mom,
mommy.
mama,
Yeah.
mother, mom.
What? Hi.
Yeah. Although I recognize the guy who's like who's being an annoying fan. I kind of recognized that more from the game Oblivion, because in that game one of the side quests, the arena side quest, where by the end of it, where you become the champion of the arena, you then have an AI like not really a follower, but like a fan will come up to you and tell him that he's your biggest fan, and then basically wherever you go, he will follow you. And it gets very annoying because there are times where you go into like somewhere where you don't think he'll be, and then he'll just somehow be there anyway. And yeah, I'm pretty sure the AI for him is programmed to just follow you wherever you go.
Yeah. And then here we have I think this is some further character development for Kevin, because since you got Arjet, being Arjet, you do get to see how Kevin is just so incensed by Arjet being the way he is, and Arjet going, what? This is what we do, right? Nope, not anymore. Yeah. He's outgrown that. And he's judging Arjet, and in so doing, he's kind of judging who he used to be,
Yeah. And we get another episode with I don't know if you would call this Gwen being out of character necessarily, but when when Arjet says, I even have all the money that I owe you, and he the Forever Knight brings out a big box full of money, and then Kevin momentarily grabs the money and is enamored by it for a moment, and then when reminds him, he then like puts it back and says, like, yeah, that's not why we're here.
Right.
And he's like,
And
I like money, like money. I think it's, I know you like money. Well, not I like money more than anything in the world. And Gwen's like, do you want to repeat that? And he's like, and then he like corrects himself and goes, he's like, I like money more than, or almost as much.
yeah.
It was like,
well, and
I don't remember
that was fine for a joke. I think they held on to that too long.
Yeah,
And
with
much to
Gwen
the
constantly going, he's like, well, why didn't your money help you, or that sort of thing.
yeah. And there really needed to be a point where, and it probably needed to be Ben, where Ben should have just stepped in and said, Gwen, get over it. You know, it's like, come on, we're all more mature than this at this point.
Yeah, especially when RJ shoots his like darts at all of them and stuns them.
Yeah.
And Kevin even says to RJ, I think one of your like darts is in my boat or something like that. And Gwen even mentions that, oh, like money would like protect you or something like that. And I'm just thinking, well, if he had money in his pocket where the dart went, that probably would act as padding and might have actually helped him.
Yeah, exactly. But really, it's like, it really does make Gwen seem, because Gwen does tend to be the slightly more mature and level-headed one of the group. Here, she is just being petty and ridiculous, and it's like, get over it, okay? You know, he clearly did not mean he likes money more than you, okay? The fact that you're focusing on it so much means the problem is with you, not with Kevin.
Yeah, we have Arjet using Andreas to collapse Forever Night castles and then go up to them and sell them insurance, or ridiculously expensive insurance.
Right. He set up his own protection racket because of the taking advantage of the circumstance of coming across this alien who, you know, is beholden to him and sees him as a friend.
Yeah. And when he gets scared enough, he starts vibrating and collapsing everything around him.
Yeah. This is another example of an alien that is incredibly powerful, but apparently very immature, very childlike, so, you know, easily manipulated.
Exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Not always causing destruction intentionally. It's really more a side effect of its, you know, fear. It gets afraid, it starts to shake, it brings down a building, you know?
Yeah. And RG even when he starts like doing that, and Gwen asks RG how he like stops him from doing that, and he even says to like, I can't stop him from doing that. I just wait for him to collapse the building and then give him I forgot what he said. He gives him like some kind of food afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was a burger, I think he said. And then also we have, because Arja has taken control of one of the Forever Night castles, one of the like a Forever Night from like outside of this, or not from this particular castle or this like faction of the Forever Knights, comes in and tries to reclaim the castle back from Arjet. And of course we also see Arjet is very willing to give up his so-called friends in order to help himself.
Oh yeah.
Because like when he's in the more advantageous position, he's like very arrogant, and he's very much like, what are you doing in my castle? And when he threatens him, he's like, yeah, no, you get out of my castle. And then when the Forever Knight who's come into the castle, he's brought a whole bunch of his knights, and like they're surrounded. Then Arjet immediately changes his tune and like is like at his feet on his knees begging for like begging, well, not begging for forgiveness, but like, begging for his life and trying to make it seem like he's not the one who came up with this whole plan, and like that Ben, Gwen, and Kevin are the ones who did. And he's even like, yeah, I don't even like wearing this very comfy cloak and everything.
Well, he is kind of a rat.
Yeah.
Yeah, some kind of rat hedgehog thing. And of course, at the end, when Andreas, during the episode, we assume that he like sacrificed himself. He turns out to be alive at the very end, but when he appears that he sacrificed himself to help them, the first, like, when Arjit's like, he immediately starts digging through the rubble, and the very first thing he says is, I had a lot of money in there, and he's only concerned about the money and the wealth that he acquired while he was in this castle. And Kevin even like punches him and like shouts at him and like tells him that Andre was his friend and he just used him.
Yeah, it's like, really, this friend saved you, and all you're concerned about is money. You're no friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously at the end of the episode, we see Agogor come up to the collapsed castle and dig up the rubble, and then pull Andreas out of the rubble and teleport him up to his ship.
I got to admit, there was part of me that really was kind of glad that you see that he did survive.
Yeah.
Not that you want to see him get taken up by Agogor, but still.
Yeah. Okay. Next episode, Fused. So this is the final episode, focusing on the 5 Andromeda aliens.
Right. This one starts off with the. It seems to be implying that we're going to get another ghost-like alien.
Yeah.
Kind of made me think of Ghost Freak, but obviously with electrical abilities.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this episode actually starts out slightly different. Instead of the gang coming across one of the 5 aliens, and then then the episode progressing as like the same as the previous episodes. Instead, it starts with the alien Rad actually going right up to Ben and attacking him, because he's under the assumption that Ben is actually the one working with Aragorn to recapture them, because obviously Aragorn is tracking Ben's Ultimatrix symbol or signature, and that's how he ends up finding the aliens after Ben's helped them. And so Rad's kind of put that all together and decided to attack Ben. Yeah, I like that they put like that little bit of spin on the episode, so it's not just the same thing 5 times. And also, this episode is where where the actual gang, they actually encounter Agogor for like the first time, because in previous episodes they've just been hearing about him and like hearing how dangerous he is and what he's planning to do and everything. But now this is the first episode where they're actually meeting him and actually fighting him and talking to him.
Well, the way this guy is acting, or they're having such a hard time fighting him, I mean, he's worse than Gilgax. I mean, that used to be like the most powerful one.
Yeah.
And now this guy seems to be worse, and he doesn't even have those other aliens' energies yet or powers yet.
Yeah.
Definitely some power creep in the writing here.
Yeah. Yeah. So obviously, the alien Rad, he's this time instead of Ben scanning the alien, Ben and Rad are accidentally fused into the same being, and the Omnitrix is deactivated. So Ben's unable to transform out of this alien form. But because the Omnitrix is because the Ultimatrix is deactivated, Agregor can't track him. So there's kind of a conflict of interest where Ben wants to return back to his original human form, but Rad wants to stay like this so that Agregor can't find him. I did also notice that I like the little joke of because they need to reboot the Ultimatrix in order to allow Ben to turn back. The actual machine that Kevin is using to try and reboot the Omnitrix is the same one that he used to hack the Omnitrix at the start of season 3.
Right. Which,
and even
of course,
Ben
Gwen
even points out, is like, yeah, that's the last time we used this, it broke the Omnitrix and turned you into a freak.
Right.
I do like the joke. It's not going to happen like that this time. And it's like, yeah, what's going to solve it is like this time I'll use the blue buttons.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ren. Yes, right. We also have a part where as soon as Rad is separated from Ben, he then flees, and when Agregor's then attacking them, Kevin is like thrown outside of the garage and pinned under a telephone pole, and he's unable to get out of it, and then Rad you see him come back, and Kevin actually chats to him and tells him, he's like, aren't you gonna get away? And he even says to him, he's like, they're in there dying because of you. And he's like, I think Kevin even says that he used to be like Rad,
Right.
Only caring for himself and only getting away from whatever problem is happening around him. And I think he even says, is that, why don't you get away from here, from whatever time it'll steal you, or from whatever time you'll steal from it.
Kind of does shame him into going back.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we see Brad. He goes back in and fights off Agregor, and it kind of seems like he everything explodes, but also we see later that Agregor did actually get away with Rad, and he didn't manage to capture him. And and Ben also says that that he swears that he'll use the powers of the 5 Andromeda aliens to help save them.
Yep. Which is appropriate.
Yep. Okay, next episode, Hero Time. This one is kind of a I suppose that you could consider this one a reflection or like a reflection for Ben to like fight against. Because even
Yeah.
though Captain Nemesis, he's not completely identical to Ben, but there are some similarities that I think the writers were probably trying to show off. Because Captain Nemesis, which totally is a hero's name.
I know. It's like at the end when he changes his name, I'm like, why doesn't he just drop the captain and he is Nemesis, you know?
Yeah. I mean, he did say earlier in the episode that he was considering dropping the captain because he like doesn't describe him much
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Or like, I think he said that that captain part of his name doesn't really suit him.
Right.
Yeah, I was just thinking when he at the end when he said like change his name from Captain Nemesis to Overlord, I was just thinking, yeah, the both those names sound like villain names. You haven't really changed
Yeah.
it much. I mean, obviously his like personality and his motivation has changed, although we never saw what it was before.
Oh, no, we know what it was before. It
Because
was an aging
throughout this,
superhero wanting to, get back in the spotlight, so he staged all this stuff, and it backfired on him because Ben was there and managed to save the day and made this guy look like an idiot. And so now he's turned into, evil dude because now Ben's ticked him off, and so now he's got to try and take Ben out of the picture and try and make
yeah,
himself look like a hero again, which didn't work.
yeah, and because we have yeah, because obviously one thing I did notice the guy voicing Captain Nemesis Christopher McDonald or Donald I have no idea if that's the correct way to pronounce it, but he's actually I know him the voice actor more specifically for voicing Kent Mansley from the Iron Giant, and also voicing Jor-El from the DC animated shows.
Ah.
And he even voiced the older version of Superman from Batman Beyond,
Oh,
which I did like hearing his voice. He's definitely an actor who's good at like playing kind of I don't know if you would refer to it as like a lovable jerk or a likable jerk or like because he's like most of the time he would be playing a character who's just a complete jerk or a complete asshole,
Yeah.
but most of the time you will be watching him, but you would find him entertaining because the actor himself has like really good comedic timing. Yeah, so Ben. Well, they have first they're at like this premiere for I think it's a movie or a play or something. Well, they have one of the actors or the big actors from the movie. One is called Jennifer Nocturne, and she's like, and they're all like talking about how popular she is and how the kind of movie she's in doesn't exactly seem like the kind of movie like Kevin would watch. Now, like Ben's like making fun of him for like the what for was it liking or watching like a movie that like doesn't fit his like overall image.
yeah, he only liked the
And
movie
we also,
because he thought she was hot.
and then when Ben saves Jennifer from like some mercenaries that are like trying to take her and ransom her off for money, who, as we later turn out, were actually hired by Captain Nemesis to like stage that as like a publicity stunt for himself. I did find it funny when later on like when Ben's like hanging out with Jennifer Nocturne and like he's like trying to like pass it off as like there's nothing more to it and it's just like them being friends.
Mm-hmm.
And he even says like I don't know who it was that said it to him, but he mentions that someone said to him that like he mentions about like cross pollination, and then Kevin laughs at him, and he's like of our images, which that one was a kind of a subtle joke that I don't know if everyone would actually notice. Yeah, and And we also have Captain Nemesis, like, behind the scenes doing more and more, like, very unheroic things to try and boost his public image.
I
Like,
likened
he,
his I
yeah,
likened his suit to that of like Iron Man.
Yeah, definitely some Iron Man implications here.
Yeah, the way his staff was putting his armor on him and all that. It's like, yeah, it's very
yeah.
Iron Man esque.
I mean, he even has the pencil thin mustache from like early
Like a
'60s
Tony
Tony
Stark, yeah.
Stark, which I'm not sure why Tony Stark, like, why the pencil thin mustache was like removed, because I'm pretty sure it was. I mean, obviously he no longer has the pencil thin mustache after the MCU because Robert Downey Jr. doesn't have that kind of mustache. He has like a full mustache and beard and everything, and clearly Marvel is hell bent on making their comics match the MCU. So obviously the comic book version of Tony looks like the MCU Tony, but like, I'm pretty sure the pencil thin mustache would, like, he didn't have that before the MC before like the first Iron Man movie.
I think that they're really just trying to go with, that look was very late 60s, early 70s, and it kind of doesn't fit anymore. It's anachronistic, so they kind of needed to update his look.
I mean, my
Yeah,
dad had that mustache when I was a kid.
Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, I don't mind the pencil thin mustache for Tony Stark. I also prefer it when Tony Stark is a little more stoic and heroic rather than the MCU depiction where he kind of feels like a very watered down Spider-Man in terms of the way
Sure.
he like acts and talks. That could just be like a personal preference thing for me rather than like a comic accurate thing, or well, rather than a general comic book accuracy thing. And we also have one of the things that Captain Nemesis does is he releases killer robots from Dimension 12, because like in an early scene he mentions like about fighting a robot called Computo. He's like, did I ever tell you about the time I fought a robot called Computo from Dimension 12? And obviously we don't hear any of that story, but we do actually see that same robot, and then all of his other killer robots from Dimension 12.
Hi, Samuel Proctor.
Yep.
Oh,
Hello. Yep.
do you mean the Samurai Proctor? Do you mean the guy who played Howard Stark in Captain
Oh,
America: The First
he's in the
Avenger?
chat.
No, yeah, he's referencing him. So
Yeah,
yeah, I got that too, and I honestly felt that was the MCU's way of kind of acknowledging the older look of Tony Stark back in the
yeah,
'60s as opposed to the younger look now,
yeah,
just making it two completely different characters.
yeah. Even though that younger version of Howard Stark was in like the '40s during World War II.
Yeah,
So
like
there's a bit of anachronism. There's a bit of anachronism. I
well, that's
suppose
also
multiple words.
covering the fact that Iron Man really was one of the original. He was, you know, in the original Marvel Comics lore, you had Captain America and Iron Man and Hank Pym and all of those older.
Yeah, and
They
Hulk,
all started
Thor, and
out,
Wasp.
but they decided to bring Iron Man into the modern age, but they still wanted like a Stark being at the beginning, filling that role, so they just made it Howard Stark.
Yeah, yeah, because that's one of the minor things that kind of bugs me about the MCU is in the original comics, Tony Stark was the leader of the Avengers for a short time.
Yep.
Because Captain America didn't actually come into the Avengers until like I think it was issue 4 when he actually was returned to the modern age,
Yep.
or as the '60s modern age rather than now. yeah, so I would have liked to have seen like Tony Stark actually be the leader of the Avengers for like to some extent during during the MCU, rather than immediately have Captain America take up leadership like right away. I know that I don't know if
Well,
the original comics
maybe
had.
Gwyneth Paltrow's going to get to lead the Avengers now.
I don't know. I stopped watching the MCU a while ago.
Good man. You're probably
I
better
stopped
off.
paying attention a while ago. And of course, they're still introducing Iron Man's villains, despite the fact that Tony Stark himself's not even in the actual. Right. He's dead at this point, so
exactly
a whole bunch of his villains are not going to appear. Or they're just going to be assigned to different heroes. Like how Ghost was in Ant-Man and the Wasp, even though he was an Iron Man villain. We never saw Titanium Man, although he may end up coming across too similar to Ironmonger and Whiplash. Mm-hmm. Even though they kind of muted the colors on those two, because Ironmonger is supposed to be kind of a very dark blue, and then Whiplash is supposed to be orange and purple. Well, the original early like 60s 70s comics, Whiplash was orange and purple, but then obviously a more modern version of Whiplash is kind of silver and grey and sometimes has green hair. But yeah, they really got rid of a lot of the colour for him. I mean, at least his Whiplash's first appearance in the second Iron Man movie, he was wearing orange, so they did try to some extent with that. Yeah, I mean, there are a whole bunch of other Iron Man villains that we're just never going to see them actually fight Iron Man now.
Yep.
We may see them in the MCU anyway, like was it Living Laser or Blizzard? They very easily could have used either of those two, because if they were concerned about using Iron Man villains because they may end up coming across as too similar to each other, they could have just used other Iron Man villains that aren't just the same thing over again.
A lot of missed opportunities, I think.
Yep. And of course the Mandarin. Even though I like Iron Man 3, so it didn't bother me too much that the Mandarin in that movie wasn't actually the comic book Mandarin. He was just a guy pretending to be. That was annoying, but the overall movie, it didn't bug me that much.
With Shang-Chi.
Oh yeah, because Mandarin apparently is going to be the villain of that movie.
Yep.
And I've actually heard people defend Iron Man 3 for like the whole the Mandarin not actually being the Mandarin, and also the fake Mandarin being Middle Eastern instead of Chinese. And I've actually heard people like defend that decision by saying, oh, but it would be racist to have a comic accurate Mandarin with like having been actual like Chinese sorcerers and everything. And I'm just thinking, yeah, but if the comics could get away with that for like multiple years,
yeah,
and of course you have other like American properties also have the whole Chinese sorceress look, and they're not criticized. Well, I suppose someone would be criticized, but like for the most part, no one kicked up a fuss about that. Like Big Trouble in Little China, Lo Pan in that movie, he's very clearly like Chinese sorceress and everything, and for the most part, no one kicked up a fuss about that character in that movie. No one was like, oh, he's racist or racist depiction of Chinese people, that sort of thing. Like no one did that. So I'm just thinking, yeah, there are ways around that problem, or at least from people seeing it like that, there are ways around that.
Yep. So let's bring it back to Ben 10.
Yeah. Kind of got off track there.
Yeah, definitely.
Did not intend that.
Another thing about this episode, Hero Time, you get an indication that this character, Nemesis, was a childhood hero of Ben's. But he's never been mentioned before. It kind of makes me a little nuts, that they do these retroactive story ideas that I don't know.
Yeah, especially the Kangaroo Commander from the original show apparently
Exactly.
was Ben's inspiration to be a hero, despite only being brought up as that fact in that one episode. And then I don't think that was ever mentioned again.
And now we're getting another hero that was his hero, you know?
That would be like the Lone Ranger coming back now and trying to revamp himself. It's like, dude, you're a little old. My generation remembers you, but none of the new, the younger kids are going to care because they don't do cowboys and Indians anymore.
Yeah.
Westerns
Yeah.
were a thing of the 60s and 70s. Not it's not a today thing. You don't see westerns anymore.
Yeah. Although nowadays I believe it's considered culturally inappropriate to refer to them as Indians.
Oh, well.
Although to be fair, I grew up in a point of time where they were still referred to as Indians, or at least I still saw entertainment where they were referred to as Indians, so I still to some extent would refer to them as that, even though I'm technically supposed to say Native Americans rather than Indians. I still kind of subconsciously just go Indians, despite.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a problem too because I mean, at some point, a native group of people are they part of the Americas or not? When you start getting into Polynesian, when you start looking at the Pacific Islanders, not all of that is the Americas. So,
And are they themselves calling themselves Native Americans? Or is that a name that somebody else put
yeah,
on and said this is what we're to call them because it's politically
you
correct?
you if you ask them, they'll say, "No, I'm Cherokee, I'm Awani, I'm
Yeah.
whatever tribe they belong to."
Yeah. Yeah, that probably it probably is. The Native American probably is a term that was decided on because obviously they were the native people in the land that we later understand as America. So that's probably where the line of thinking where that term comes from.
Right. But what happens if you happen to be Awani, descended from Canadians, Native Canadians? Are you
Yeah.
still Native Americans if your tribe happens to be from Canada?
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't
Yeah.
care what you want to call them. It's still a title you have chosen arbitrarily to put upon them.
Yeah.
So it's still culturally insensitive if you look at it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, so this episode is the one I mentioned about it having kind of subtly or maybe it's not subtle, but talking about the whole media bias or mainstream media bias and everything, because Captain Nemesis himself, obviously Will Harang himself, he favors Captain Nemesis, even when Captain Nemesis is in a losing position or is something like that. Like Will Harang, because he has this kind of pro Captain Nemesis, anti Ben Tennyson, he will twist the facts so that what he likes and what he dislikes still remain that, and that people watching him also see it that way as well. So when Captain Nemesis is humiliated, he still refers to him as a great American hero and everything, and he's like we are today have witnessed the fall of a great American hero, and he's not even paying attention to the fact that Captain Nemesis isn't really a hero anymore, but he's ignoring that because it's a hero because it's someone who used to be a hero, and obviously because Will Harang doesn't like Ben, he immediately favors Captain Nemesis regardless of what he actually thinks or says or does.
Yeah.
And of course, when Captain Nemesis is fighting the killer robots from Dimension 12 that he himself released from that dimension. He even has his I suppose you could call him a butler, but he's not really, like some kind of like his helper or something, and like he has him go up to Will Harang or meet Will Harang in like a parking lot or something, and like agree to like exclusive coverage of like what's going on. Yeah, and we also have at the very end of the episode where Captain Nemesis is like supercharged the reactor in his suit, so he's like so he's putting out a lot of heat, and Ben uses a water hazard to basically like spray him with cold water, then absorb the moisture from the air, and then his suit like turns grey, and then Ben is able to like punch him and or knock him out, and actually break his suit because of how brittle the water made it. And then we also have the at the very end when Ben's actually defeated him, and he's like saying, "I used to have a poster on your wall." He's like you used to be a hero. He's like, didn't you forget that it wasn't like what being a hero means? And he's like and he says he's like, it was about help, like it wasn't about fame, it was about helping people. Which that part of that moment in the episode did actually stick out to me when I was younger, when I first saw the episode. Maybe a little blatant and like up front, but I don't really mind that, especially because it shows Ben not being as like ego driven and all about the fame and everything.
That's just the point. A hero is supposed to help people. It shouldn't be about fame. It shouldn't be about money. It should be about helping the people. I mean, you don't see Superman going, "Okay, you want me to save you? I'm going to need some money for that. Make sure there's a TV crew here. You know, get my left side. It's my best side." There's none of that.
Yeah. So like Booster Gold, except Booster Gold, the whole point of his character is that he starts out like that, like seeking fame, but then he like learns to actually like care about people and help people just because it's the right thing to do. Right. But that's obviously not the point of Captain Nemesis here. He's obviously meant to be a reflection of Ben at this point in time, and kind of I suppose this is what Ben could end up like, or maybe like he could potentially become like Captain Nemesis is in this episode. Okay, final episode, Ultimate Aggregor. Yeah, so this episode we have the kind of a culmination in the storyline that's been going on in the I don't know if you would call it in the background of like a background story, but like the primary story of the season so far. It's kind of like a culmination of everything we've been shown so far.
It's like that was actually something that threw me off too. Like, because the first episode, you see the one alien, we think is going to be killed, and then it's a completely, like the next episode is something totally unrelated, and then it goes back to the aliens being captured. And it's like
didn't flow the best.
Yeah. Here's one question I have. Do you think this episode would have worked as a season finale?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because it leaves it on a cliffhanger. That's why we watch the next episode. It's like I can't just leave it there. I gotta kind of see where it goes from here.
Yeah. Because in some respects, this would be the season finale, but I prefer to consider this as a halfway point in the season rather than the finale.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it also we also get the allusion to when Kevin had absorbed some abilities out of the Omnitrix and was going around like a mutant thing for a while.
Yeah, like a Frankenstein's monster-esque design for
Yeah.
his mutant form.
And they retroactively explain that when his race absorbs powers from others, it tends to make them go a little crazy.
Yeah. And Agogor does say that that's lies created by the powerful to control the weak. And obviously, because he's the villain, you can't necessarily trust everything he says.
Right.
So he could be lying, or maybe he could be telling the truth. It's not really clear.
No, I
But
honestly
since
think he
he's the villain, it's
believes
probably not
it.
a good idea to trust him.
Yeah, no, I think he believes it, but that doesn't make it so. See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And that's why
Yeah.
when Kevin says, no, I know, I've been there, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so this episode starts with well, the first thing we see in this episode is Ben, a whole bunch of Ben's fans kind of getting in the way of his I don't know if you say getting in the way of his life or getting in the way of like what he's doing, because he's like drinking a smoothie and a whole bunch of fans start running up to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, and they're trying to like, Gwen and Kevin are trying to like come up with a way to get away from getting away from all the fans. And then and Ben decides to turn into into Big Chill, and then and then Ultimate Big Chill, and then like freeze a giant ice wall in front of the fans to stop them from getting any closer.
Because he wants to finish his smoothie.
His
Yeah,
meat
I did find that
smoothie.
funny.
Oh,
I
yeah,
did find that
sorry.
funny when it like froze his smoothie. Well, I find it weird that when he turns upside down, it like drops out. I would have thought because it's frozen, it would have stuck to the container itself rather than sliding right out.
Well, yeah, again, meat smoothie. How weird is that?
Yeah.
Just sounds gross.
Does kind of make you wonder what the smoothie place is thinking, even trying that flavor.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe they're thinking with because Ben's famous and popular, and that if he gives if he likes it, and maybe like the good publicity from that will get him convince like all his fans to then start buying it, and the smoothie joint will get a whole bunch of money from it.
you
Yep.
would think then that the smoothie place would like give her free smoothies for life because she's drawing so much business to them.
Yeah. Yeah, so in this episode we have Kevin is actually being a little more focused on what's going on, obviously specifically because the villain of the season is a member of his species, and like he does mention about the fact that they're the same species. Is like, I think he mentioned something about possibly like feeling like responsible for what's going on because of the link that they have.
Right.
And of course we have Agogor walking through the desert with a captured Rad, and then a whole bunch of plumbers decloak and start attacking him. Obviously, because multiple times Agogor has killed a whole bunch of plumbers. And I feel like obviously him killing a bunch of plumbers probably wouldn't have gone unnoticed forever. I feel like eventually someone was gonna notice that members of the plumbers were dying or just disappearing completely.
True.
And especially when it's related to the same person, or like something very similar is going on with each time a plumber dies or disappears. So I feel like eventually the plumbers would have found Agogor and tried to arrest him. And I'd also noticed that later in the episode, because Agor has these robots that are these robots working for him. I did notice that they kind of resemble Manhunters from DC.
I didn't notice that, but you're right.
Can't actually find an image of the robots, but yeah, they resemble. They have a very strong Manhunter aesthetic to them. And of course, this episode, because one of the plumbers shoots or blows up Aragorn's the hyperdrive on Aragorn's ship, so he can't return to Osmos 5, I believe he called it. So he can't return to his homeworld to absorb these aliens. So instead, he chose to return or go to the military base of La Soledad, which I think this is the third time we've seen this location.
Yep.
And also because the first time we saw this location was related to Professor Paradox and how he gained his powers. Of course, Professor Paradox makes an appearance in this episode.
Yes, he does.
Yep. And I also like the fact that when the general sees Professor Paradox, like just suddenly in the room, he goes to grab his gun, but then it's not there, and Professor Paradox is like, he's holding it. He's like, yeah, I took the liberty of taking it from you before I got here.
Yeah, before I got here, exactly.
And we also have Professor Paradox also gives us some information on what's going on. And he says, I think it's an entropy drive, I think he calls it. Yeah, he says when they ask Professor Paradox why he doesn't just go back in time and like disable the time machine before it can be used by Aragorn, he mentions that time travel weakens the fabric of reality. So I don't know how feasible that explanation is. Like, obviously that's that's obviously the writers came up with that reason to give an answer why Professor Paradox can't just go back in time and prevent this fall from happening and everything.
Well, and given that, I mean, let's face it, the base there, which is the center point for his time travel experiment, and
Yeah.
the multiple events that have happened there. If anywhere is going to be brittled from time travel, it's going to be there.
Yeah, because he even points out that the fabric of reality is like, I think time travel overall weakens it, but that specific spot in Los Soledad, he mentions that reality there is already like paper thin. So that's obviously the explanation as to why Professor Paradox doesn't go with them to that location.
Right.
I think Professor Paradox can still go there, but I think it's more of a case of less of a case of he can just go there back and forth multiple times, but rather he has to be very specific about how many times he visits that location.
Sure.
I think it's a case of he probably could go there, but it would have to be like very specific, or it would have to be like no other option or that sort of thing. So yeah. We also have before Professor Paradox leaves, he takes Kevin aside and says to him to he says he can't give him too much information about what will happen in the future, but he does mention to Kevin to remember who his friends are.
Yeah.
And later on in the season that will become very apparent why Professor Paradox warned him of that. That will be coming back later in the season. So for while it's cryptic right now, it will make sense eventually. And of course, we also have Agregor. While he's at La Soledad, he uses the time machine there to to help him like fully absorb the 5 Andromeda aliens that he's captured. And obviously at first he has these like mind control headbands on them, and I think that's the same mind control headband that Dr. Animal was using in the episode Escape from Agregor.
Right.
Might not be the exact same one, but it is the same technology. Yeah, and yeah, so they start this. So after they've destroyed all the droid, all the Manhunter robots, they the 5 Andromeda aliens, they then are teleported there, and because they're under mind control, they start fighting them. And I like the fact that they don't leave it too long before they actually figure out how to actually stop them from fighting them, because they figure out that they have to destroy the mind control devices on their head, or on their heads. Yeah, so after they each individually destroy the mind control devices on their heads, they're then teleported back into the tubes where they will be absorbed into Agregor. There is one thing I noticed when Agregor starts absorbing them, and you see like it kind of looks like reality cracking, and it's like pushing them back. And Kevin points out that it's the more he tries to push forward towards Agregor, it's like whatever's like the anomaly is like pushing back even harder on him as he's trying to like push forward. But then we actually see Ben turn into Humongous and just run right up to Agregor, no problem, and like push him out of the way, and then punch the anomaly, which I think probably the craziest thing that's happened, because I think the only other time we've seen I think the only other instance of a character solving a problem by punching like a cosmic anomaly, I think, was Superman punching reality. Also, I think it was in Infinite Crisis. I think. I think
Sometimes
that
when
was
you're a
the
hero, it's like, I am so over this. I'm just getting it done. You know?
yeah. And then obviously the episode ends with them revealing that Agregor has actually successfully absorbed the 5 aliens, and then the episode ends there. Although obviously you know what happens next because you watched the episode, or watched the next episode, I should say.
Yes, we did. And we'll pick that
But
up next time.
we'll save that for next time rather than now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
But it's worth the
I've not
watch.
watched that episode yet. So I mean, I know what happens because I've seen it before, but I've not watched the episode recently. So because I assumed we were only doing 10 episodes. Oh, is that everything that you have on this episode?
Yep.
Okay, so obviously we're not gonna be doing a stream next Sunday, but rather the Sunday after that.
Right.
Yeah, so
So in 2 weeks, we'll be back
okay, yeah, Melissa Harris. Kevin is half alien. He's half alien, half human, specifically Osmosian.
Yep.
Yeah, we covered that before. Yeah, so
Here's something I don't think has ever come up, but can Kevin absorb 2 different materials at once? So like half his body is like rock and the other half is, diamond or something, or wood or something else? Because you only ever really see him turn into one particular element when he touches it. But can he separate?
you're a little quiet there. I can't quite hear you.
Can Kevin do more than like have half his body one element and the other half of his body a different element, like stone and diamond or stone and wood or something? I don't think we've ever seen that.
I do recall Kevin like absorbing one element and then absorbing a different element over the top of the first one. I think a later episode in it's either this season or possibly season 2 or 3 of Ultimate Alien. We do see Kevin absorb one element, but then partially absorb a different element over the top of it. Because I do recall Kevin like absorbing like iron or steel, and then absorbing a different colored metal, like I think it's a bronze or like copper or something, and then absorbing that over like his arm. But I don't think it's a case of him absorbing the metal or absorbing that mineral like in order to combine them, but rather he's absorbed one, and then a little bit later he then absorbs a different metal over the top of the one he already has.
I meant
Because I
like
know sometimes he
he
kind of
absorbed two
deactivates
different
his.
types of materials so that he can use two different types. So like one arm he can use as stone, and one arm he can use as a diamond or something like that to use two different
Yeah,
strengths.
yeah, because I think he can kind of do multiple elements at once. Because during the final episode of season 1, when we introduced the Plumber's Helpers, Gwen did give Kevin like this bag full of multiple materials, and he no, actually, I think it was he had a few metallic objects in his pocket, and he like different objects in his pocket. I think it was like copper and nickel and a couple of others, I think. And he absorbed all of them, and they're all kind of mismatched over his hand. So I think he can absorb multiple metals or materials at the same time. Obviously, it has to be if it has to be enough material there that he's absorbing for it to go over his entire body. If he has like a stone like the size of his hand, then it's only going to go about like this much of his hand, or partially over his arm. It's not going to cover his entire body if there's not enough material there to do that.
Makes
So I
sense.
suppose he potentially could absorb like stone in like just one part of his hand, and then like absorb metal for the other hand or something. Yeah. So next, the next stream will be 2 weeks from now.
Yep.
And we'll be covering the second half of season 1. So that'll be the next 10 episodes. And obviously, we won't need to worry about splitting season 2 in half, because that one's only like 12 episodes long. So that season we'll be able to get done in one stream rather than 2.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for now, second half of season 1 will be 2 weeks from now. But before that, we shall have Geeky Geezers later on today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what else is happening throughout the rest of the week. Who's rewatches it on Saturday?
That'll be on Big Al's, because again we're out of town, so he's doing meatballs with I want to say Daniel Heron and
Leia plus size.
Leia plus size. Yeah.
Okay. I think Daniel Heron's doing a stream on Wednesday, isn't he?
Right. He also has a stream on Wednesday, but I don't know what it is.
Okay. Well, I suppose Boomer will know, because he's normally the co-host there.
Of course. And we'll cover that later tonight.
Yeah, because we can actually have Boomer himself give that information.
Do you have anything else coming up this week?
Not on the stream front, but I will be uploading a few more clips from some of the previous streams we've done.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm not going to upload like a whole bunch of them all at once, like all in like 1 or 2 days. I'm going to like spread them out over the week. Yeah, so we still have the a couple. I can still get a few more individual videos out of the the Star Wars prequels stream, and Actually, I haven't actually done anything for the those Transformers streams that we did.
Oh yeah.
Actually, we've sort of just forgotten about those streams entirely. I'll see what I can pull out of those 3 streams.
Cool.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
Yep. So until next time, let the Matrix light your darkest hour till all are one.